You can unmute Hala. It's okay.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, just leave it unmuted. It's cool. Dogs barking, babies screaming. That's fine. This whole reading the chat shit's gonna get real old real quick. You guys got to realize, like, I spent 10 years doing presentations with people who had toddlers running around the house, setting the kitchen on fire, dogs barking, cousins drunk fighting in the background, like, you name it. You gotta learn to push through all that stuff and not get knocked off of your game. You guys ever read the E Myth? No, that's a good one. Michael Gerber. It's a good book about entrepreneurship, but essentially it just describes all the fallacies and all the major hurdles that people run into when they start up a business. And what happens a lot is people get into a job, they start a business, and they build a business around some technical skill that they have. So, like, say they were an HVAC tech, they build a business around HVAC. They're the primary technician and also the business owner and also the CFO, also the CEO, also the everything janitor. But they never move out of the technician position. They never replace themselves as a worker, right? And so they can never scale up their business. And you know, that's why like 85% of small businesses fail within 2 years and like 95 fail within 5 years. But anyway, there's a part about it where he's talking about you know, selling encyclopedias over the kitchen table and having a dog like just chewing into his leg and drawing blood, and he has to keep focused and keep selling these books. It's pretty funny. He's pretty desperate. He's like, I got to do this, man. If I don't sell these books, I'm fucked. So this dog's gonna have to take my leg off. It's gonna eat my foot. I don't care, but I'm gonna sell these books. All right. So we're here in school. We're gonna cruise over to classroom, go to the training plan, and CMAs are going to be under our converting bucket, mastering CMAs. Real quick, do you guys have a fundamental grasp of the difference between prospecting, converting, and transacting?
Yes, I have a brief understanding.
Yeah, do me a favor, guys. Like, throw it back to me in your own, like, the way that you envision it, so I can kind of take a peek inside your head the way you look at those things.
Well, just for me, prospecting would be, um, possibly finding valuable potential clients, whether that be like in your immediate workplace, like in my situation, on base. That's kind of prospecting, having conversations that could have been eventually lead to clients. Converting would be, to me, from what I've seen so far, is starting the process and getting them the information that they need for their specific situation or request. And then the last part would be kind of executing on that.
Transacting part?
Yes.
Yeah. And what do you mean by executing? And try to be
Um,
specific.
so any like listing agreements, pretty much putting everything in writing, getting the ball rolling on that aspect.
Got it. So I heard you say agreements and writing. You know,
Yes.
those are definitely key phrases. And then when you said converting, you had mentioned giving them the information. I think that's definitely a key in that. And then prospecting, you said talking to new people, right?
Correct.
Got it. Ethan?
I kind of feel like with the prospecting, it comes down to like how well you do it with your time. I'm probably not the best person to try.
And it's okay if you don't have
Yeah, I'm
if
not
you've
really
got a
sure.
fuzzy understanding about it.
Yeah.
Really, what I'm just trying to do is kind of gauge where your guys' levels are before I go diving into the stuff too deeply. But that's good. That's good. So I'm gonna zoom back a little bit and I'm gonna give you guys like my perspective on what these things are. That way you can see where every activity that we take in this process fits into a bucket. So to mirror what Hala said, prospecting is getting new names, numbers, and motivation. It's meeting new people that you can put into the possibilities category. Now, the reason I say it's not just getting names and numbers is because You could just go find a phone book and rip out all the pages of the phone book and call that prospecting. Yeah, you got names and numbers, but you don't know anything about these people. You don't know if they're motivated or not, capable or not, and you haven't had an opening conversation with them. So that's finding out what their motivation is, that communication with them is the act of prospecting. It's not just getting the names and the numbers, it's talking to the people with the names and the numbers, right? And 80% of what we do in this business is going out and amassing those names and numbers, right? So you're going to see that I got a heavy emphasis for you guys on making sure that you speak to every single person in your database, in your network, in your community, every person that you can reach through social media, through your church, through your family, friends of friends, every meeting that you can go to, change of command ceremonies, pinning ceremonies, the whole kit and caboodle, because those people are within reach for you. And prospecting is just touching those people and seeing what that motivation is. That's 80% of the game. And the reason that is because we find that if a person is willing and able to do business, 70 plus percent of the time, they're going to work with the first agent that talks to them or the agent that's talking to them when they're ready to go. So you might talk to somebody for a couple of years and then fall off. They're just not ready. And then 6 months after you're out of the pictures, Joe Blow walks up and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you're an agent. I want to buy a house. Let's go do this." People have a hard time going out and meeting new people. People are inherently shy and introverted. Even extroverts don't just wildly trust, that they can go out and find somebody. So if somebody lands in their orbit, they're going to collect that person unless there's a reason not to work with them. They're just going to say, "Hey, this is good enough," most of the time, as long as you're a good person. So to be successful in this industry, it's really just a matter of popularity, just being the guy that everybody knows or the gal that everybody knows. So when you go out there and you do your daily workflow, 80% of your work is just thinking, how can I have a novel conversation with someone I've never talked to before that hopefully is within that buy box that, is in the age, in the area and in the financial capability to buy a house, right? That's all prospecting. Converting is when you take that a step further. You meet that person and you find out they are in the buy box or they are potentially qualified. Now, Hala said giving them the information that they need. Very important. However, that's only one of the many things that come up in converting. Some people need information to move them along. Think about this like a factory, right? Prospecting is going and finding the raw material and bringing it to the factory. Converting is putting that raw material into a machine that converts it and turns it into something more usable. If it's oil, you're refining it. If it's like raw plastics, you're molding it into something, right? Everybody has a different need in that conversion window. Some people need information because they can't take action because they don't know what to do. Some people can't take action because they think things work a way that they don't. They don't realize that there's a path for them and the information unlocks that path. Other people need your assistance. They actually need you to go open doors. They need you to show them houses. They need you to plug them into lending, right? Other people need encouragement. They need assistance. They need somebody to get behind them and say, "You can do it," especially like single Marines or single parents, right? They need somebody to come in and say, "Hey, dude, you can actually afford this. Like, you don't have to wait and get remarried or, wait until you're an E7 or an E8 or let alone retire to do this," right? We're not trying to convince people to do something. We're encouraging them to do something by showing them the information. We're having consultations with them to help get to the bottom of what's holding them back. We're just unlocking a willing and able person. And this is very important. I want you guys to keep this in mind. There are a lot of people that get into sales and they think that what sales is learning this magic fucking karate that's going to allow you to make anybody buy anything at any time. If you just say the right words, it's like a trance and you can get somebody to hand over money. It doesn't work like that. Our job is finding those people who just need one or two things to move them along the pipeline, and they'll work with us. That's it. All we're doing is finding those people who are most of the way there, who generally are in approval of buying a house, are mostly capable of buying a place or selling one, and they just need that little push, or they need you to clear that little obstacle out of the way for them so that they can move along. We're not in the business of going and finding people who are diametrically opposed to buying homes and trying to turn them into a home buyer. No, we don't do that. And we can take a cue from political campaigns and the political parties. If you've ever done any canvassing for political parties, they give you a list. I say a neighborhood of door knocking. They say, this is the whole list, right? Of all these people, these are the ones that are red, these are the ones that are blue, and these are the ones that are undecided. Don't go to the reds and blues. They've already made up their mind. Go to the ones that are undecided. They're on the fence, which means you can tip them one way or the other, right? Well, that's a lot like what we're doing. We're finding people who are ready, able, maybe, and they just need that little tip. And that's where we get our business from. So the moral of the story with converting is we're finding people who are most of the way there and we're problem solving with them to give them whatever they need to get there, right? And we're doing the work. Sometimes that means the process of converting is we take a listing and we do a listing appointment. The listing appointment is where we convince them that we're the person for the job. We give them the consultation to say, hey, this is what I think you should list your house for. These are the things I think you should do to the house to get it ready for sale. And then ultimately, when they say, you know what, I agree, they sign, boom, you've taken them from the conversion window to the transacting window. With buyers, it's getting them pre-qualified and getting them to sign a buyer broker agreement, actually go look at houses. It's kind of borderline with the buyer broker agreement. You don't really even really even need one, but opening the doors, giving them good information about the homes that they see, having a good consultation about the type of home that's going to be right for them, and then getting them to that point that they're ready to put in an offer on that house. For me, what really constitutes the transacting phase of this process for a buyer is when they put in an offer to buy a house, right? So that's converting, doing all the steps you need to take that person who's willing and able to a contract. Transacting is when you sign contracts, right? And that's when you get into the escrow process. Now, the transacting phase, right, is where the highest level of knowledge and capability is, right? 80% of the business is just being fucking popular, which is why the bottom half of all the agents that are in the industry, some of them are successful and they're bumbling idiots. People just like them, and that's really all it takes in a lot of cases. But they need a grown up when it comes time to do the transacting part, because that's where you go from being Mr. Popular or Miss Popular to being a borderline real estate attorney. And we guys have to keep in mind in California, we're in escrow state. You, as a real estate agent, represent your client in escrow from start to finish. You're expected to know a lot about these contracts. You're expected to know a decent amount about the law. You're expected to be held to a pretty high standard of ethics and managing that escrow properly. I mean, you're doing some high level stuff here. In other states, they're not escrow states. In other states, they're attorney states, where once you get to the closing table and you get a contract signed, it gets ratified. And it's not escrow companies, it's attorneys. You got attorneys at both sides of the table. The closing attorneys finish all this stuff up. In California, we're doing that job. So out here, it's a higher expectation of what we do. But that's honestly, it's kind of inverse. It's kind of funny, but that transacting is only 10% of it. Converting is only 10% of it. Prospecting is 80% of it. But the converting and the transacting, those are actually the harder parts, right? Because converting is problem solving, being creative, like helping people work through their issues. And transacting is just fucking tough. It's just tough because you're dealing with all kinds of crazy shit. You're dealing with negotiations with the other side, which are hard. You're dealing with legal compliances. You're dealing with a lot of regulations. Like, you really need to know your shit for that. Anyways, once you get through the transacting phase, you get them through the escrow. Escrows are always ugly. There's always a bunch of crazy shit there. But the good news is we get really well rewarded when we actually get across that finish line. You're not going to understand the full breadth of transacting until you've gone through a handful of closings. and seen how the shit can go crazy. And just when you think you've seen it all, brother, you ain't seen nothing. Because every single day I do this is a whole nother problem. They just keep coming up with new ones every day. So never gets dull. Anyways, so prospecting, being popular, finding new people and bringing them to the category, converting, solving their problems, giving them whatever it may need, whether it's knowledge or just your effort or what, and then transacting is actually just closing the business. So that being said, what we're doing is CMAs. CMA is a uh, comparative market analysis. It's a piece of information, right? To go back to what Hala said. So inside converting is our CMA. So we're going to go here to converting, and then this whole section here walks you through the importance of CMAs and why we use them. So a couple of things you guys need to know. CMA is useful for different people for different reasons, right? So someone might say, hey, I want to know the value of my house. I don't have a contract signed with this person yet. They just want to know what the value of their house is. It's my job to figure out why and what I can do with that. Other people, they need a CMA because we're under contract and they need to know if it's going to appraise, right? Sometimes I'll do a CMA, actually, every time, let's be honest. Every time before I put in an offer, I do a CMA on a house so I know what it's going to appraise for so I can give my clients proper guidance. Sometimes you can do one lightweight, quick and dirty. Someone's like, yeah, I'm not going to sell until like next year or the year after, but I want to know generally what my home's value is. Cool. You can do a lightweight CMA. You don't have to put a whole lot of effort into it because they're just trying to get within tens of thousands. But if you're getting ready to take a listing and they want to know exactly how much they can expect to sell that house for, that's when you need to get nitty gritty down to the details. So I'm going to teach you guys how to do this down to the details. And then once you have that fundamental understanding of how to do it properly, then you can lighten up on some things as time permits. Way too many people in this industry never learn how to do a proper CMA. They only learn how to do dog shit, quick and dirty CMAs. And they wonder why they have so many problems when they get into escrow or when they get the listing. Agents who can't do CMAs properly can't understand the value of the home accurately, and everything that is built off of that is problematic. So, for example, if I'm taking a listing, someone's asking me to sell their house, and I don't have a good grasp of what that home will sell for, then I'm going to give them bad information for what they could list it for. And maybe we list it $40,000 more expensive than what it'll sell for. Next thing you know, I'm in a contract with them. I'm in a listing. That house isn't selling and it's stressful. And who's to blame? Numero uno, right? They're like, well, you said it would sell for, 690. And I'm like, well, I thought it would because I didn't do my homework properly. I didn't look at the details. If I looked at the details, I might have realized that my house wasn't like the house down the street because of all the upgrades, or because of the view, or because it wasn't an in unit, or some other factor, right? One might have HOA, one might not, right? And all those things make a difference about values. If you're putting in an offer on a place and you don't have a strong grasp of what that house will sell for, your client's going to ask you like, what's the offer I should put in on it? And if you're like, yeah, you should go for 690, and they're like, but why? That sounds like a lot of money. And you're just like, I don't know, because it'll get you the deal. That's weak. But if you get in and show them a CMA and you're like, look, man, they're only asking 670. It's worth 690 all day, and I don't know why people aren't buying this. It's a great value. You should take it. Well, that's going to guarantee that you get that offer accepted. It's going to guarantee that you close on that house. It was one home. This is in Chula Vista. It's even fucking crazy to think about right now, but it was listed for 500,000. It was a detached three-bed house on a big piece of land in Chula Vista. And we were late to the game to find that property. She'd already basically had a handshake agreement with somebody for like, 525 or something like that. And I did my CMA on it. This house was worth 575. She listed it so fucking low. It was ridiculous. She's like, I got so many offers. I don't want any more. I'm like, yeah, yeah, but how about I give you 550? She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'll just 550. We'll just wipe it out right now. She's like, the best offer I got's like 525. I'm like, that's fine. Like, give us a deal. I know you made a deal with that other person and it's gonna suck to go break their heart, but 550, let's do it. She goes, All right. She called me back a couple hours later. She's like, send me the paperwork. You got the deal. I was like, cool. And then fucking thing appraised for 575. She just didn't do her job right, right? And she was going to sell that house way cheap, and we would have missed out on it had I not done the CMA and told my client because she saw it was listed for 500, and she's like, but 25,000 over is a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, yeah, but you're looking at it wrong. It's not that it's 25,000 over; it's that it's $50,000 under, right? And that's where the value of the CMA comes in. So you know your numbers. She still owns that house. She's had a couple of roommates in there, and it's appreciated like $250,000 since she bought it. So, ching ching. All right, getting on to the technical stuff here. So this is a step-by-step guide. This picture that is showing you right here is, let's see if this blows up. This is just a snapshot of the spreadsheet that we're going to use for our adjustments. All right. One house is 1,000 square foot bigger than the other house. You know that means it's worth more, but how much more? Most agents don't know. They don't have a system to figure that number out. The spreadsheet that we use right here does that. It gives you the numbers for everything so that you don't have to just take guesses at what something's worth. You can just go here. It's not perfect, but it's standard. And every CMA you do will be pretty consistent all the way through. And when times call for it, you can make adjustments. You can, put your own personal touch to these things as your like experience and expertise grows. But this will actually put numbers into place instead of just pulling things out of your ass. The link to that's right here. You click that button. All right. Now you'll notice down here at the bottom of the tab, you got single family residences, condos. Don't worry about SFRV1, just right here. Condos and single families. You'll notice up here you got price ranges, the 6 to 800s, the 800 to a million, and the million to 1.2. And this is just to help you guys stratify. An extra bedroom in $1 million house is a much greater scale than an extra bedroom in a condo, right? Like, and it just has a lot to do with because it's kind of a percentage in a way. It's based on the general value of that home. So you're not going to say like, oh, an extra bathroom's only worth $5,000 if it's in a multi-million-dollar house. That's just ridiculous because the extra bathroom's going to be, probably $500,000 or not 500,000, but probably like $50,000, right? So this helps you break that out. You'll see on here that you got the differences between certain things, like on the flooring category, comparing worn carpet versus new carpet. That'll be an additional $2 to $4 a square foot. If you're going from worn carpet to hardwood floors, it's going to be an additional $4 to $6 a square foot for that upgrade, and so on and so forth, all the way up to high-end stone, which could be as much as $10 a square foot if somebody has like an expensive travertine tile or something in there. You don't have to be an expert on all the finishes and materials. You just need to have an understanding of the lowest level, the mid grade, and the highest level, right? Lowest level is going to be worn dog shit carpet to like from worn carpet to new carpet, right? Your mid level is going to be your decent, like fix and flip flooring, either a dated hardwood floor that's mostly in good shape, like a high quality hardwood floor that's aged, or that luxury vinyl plank shit that they put in all the flips, right? But we're not talking like rollout linoleum. You know what I mean? Your mom's, your grandma's fucking kitchen floor rollout linoleum is going to be like on a level with carpet. And then you got the tile that looks like wood that's very expensive all the way up to just that high end stone. Now that fucking, you know, improperly placed, super high glossy, fake ivory looking shit that you see in like these Filipino households where it's a fucking $400,000 condo and it's like wall to wall, floor to ceiling, like high gloss tile. Yeah, they might have used like something of an expensive material, but they did it in a horribly tasteful way or distasteful way. Like you're gonna have to use good judgment and say, yeah, it's good material, but it's bad application. You're gonna have to deduct points for that. And that's where you're like, your industry knowledge, how your clients feel about these things really matters. The more clients that you show as a buyer, as a buyer's agent, the better the grasp you'll have of the value of these things. So if you don't know the answers to all these off the bat, just give it a couple hundred or 1,000 showings and you'll be like, shit, I know they ain't paying for that. Nobody likes that, you know. You'll see here we got the difference between ages. Now you'll notice here 1960 to 1990, you know, that's a big range. And they're saying it's going to be $1,000 a year for homes that are built between these ranges. But within 10 years, like you're not even going to start the deduction for the first 10 years. You're going to say 10 years is free and every year after that's going to be 1,000. So let's just say there was a house built 1960 versus 1990. We're going to take 10 years off of that. So it'll be basically all of the 1970s, that'll be 10, all of the 1980s, that'll be 10. So that'll be, you know, $20,000 for the difference between those two, not $30,000. And then from 2010 to 2020 and beyond, only about $500 a year. This one, you don't have to put a whole lot of weight into this. You're going to spend a little bit more emphasis on quality of the home more so than this. But with year built, what really matters is the architecture of the home, the age of the building materials inside the home, and like the obsolescence of the systems that are inside the home. So does it have cast iron drain pipes versus ABS plastic drain pipes, right? If it has cast iron drain pipes, anything from 1965 and older, those things are all going bad right now. Unless they've been replaced, they're crumbling and caving in, and people's houses aren't draining properly. So Claremont Mesa, Old Santee, rampant with these things. Anywhere that there's expansive soil, it's a big problem. Versus the black ABS drain lines. The black ABS drain lines will fucking last forever, right? Those things are fucking, you'll never kill that. Plastic is a forever chemical. And that was, depending on, what neighborhood you're talking about. For sure, everything from like 1980 on, it's pretty solid in Southern California, started getting ABS. But, the 70s are kind of like, yeah, it depends on what neighborhood, right? Could go one way or the other. And you need to investigate that when you talk to the agents. The old copper, super thin wall copper versus PEX water lines. Sometimes these older houses had aluminum wiring instead of copper wiring. Some of these old houses didn't have insulation at all. The walls are just empty. They didn't fill them with fiberglass batting like they do now. Single pane windows versus dual pane windows, no insulation in the attic. Like just even the walls made out of lath and plaster instead of drywall. A lot of the way that homes are built back then versus now kind of problematic. So you're sort of accounting for that difference in the material, right? It's not just the space, it's what the space is made of. So we got adjustments in here for parking, the size of the lot. Pools are super fucking hard to figure out because they don't make sense. They're wildly inconsistent. You could make an argument that pools add zero value. You can make an argument that they deduct value. In some cases, you see a house that has a real nice pool sell for 100 grand more than what it should. These fucking things are just frustrating to do an appraisal on. And clients always want to know, well, yeah, if I put in a pool, is that going to help? And they're like, well, it's anybody's fucking guess. Some people they want a yard for their dog and they got littles and they don't want a pool. Some people have owned a pool and they know how much it costs to maintain. And it could be fucking a lot. I mean, with a pool, you got to you got to have a regular pool guy because let's be honest, 99% of people ain't gonna do it themselves. I've met some people that proudly do their own water chemistry. They're like fucking retired, and they're like dorks and like they don't have anything else going on in life. It's so few and far between. Most of the time, they're hiring somebody to take care of the pool. That's a monthly cost. And then twice a year, they got to do servicing, cleaning out the filters and shit like that, drain the pool, like whatever, putting new water in. All that shit costs money, man. And then when the pool starts to break down, the liner goes bad, the pumps go out, you got leaks everywhere, you need a new fucking heater. It's just and it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and just adds up. So I always tell my clients, like, unless you're a glutton for punishment, or unless you've got dogs and babies that are absolute water kids, like I would just stay away from it. Like to me, it has to be a hell yes or a no. Like they either are like, I've always wanted a pool and I don't care what it costs, and my children were born in the water and they'll die in the water. Like, okay, I'm convinced. But other than that, that would be nice. Like, no, you ain't pool people. If you think it'd just be nice, you ain't pool people. We're not doing that. If they didn't grow up with one, stay away from it. But anywhere from ten to $100,000 here, based on the facts. In order to value this, what you really have to do is look and see if the comparable properties that you're comparing to had pools or not. And if you're like comparing a house that has a pool against five others that don't have a pool, it's going to be really hard. If you're comparing a house with a pool against five other houses that have pools, it gets a lot easier because then it's really apples to apples. But comparing one without a pool to houses with pools or vice versa, it's very difficult. You're going to get kind of inconsistent numbers. So if that does happen, I would say be more modest about the value of the pool, like one way or the other. Just try to be as conservative as possible. Views are a huge factor when it comes to the value of property. People don't even realize 3 to 15% value of that house based on whether it has views. It's nuts. So people are like, oh, but a house in the neighborhood just like mine sold. It's like, yeah, but that one has panoramic views over the fucking golf course, over the fucking bay or whatever you don't. Like, that's not that big a deal. Like, shit. 3 to 15% of the home's value is a big deal. 3% on a million is $30,000. 15 per, or $300,000. That's a lot of cheddar, dude. That's a big, big difference. So, so in order really assess like the importance of uh the view, you need to look at the critical factors of the view. A view of what? If it's a view of a cemetery, it's not going to be that important. But if it's a view of the ocean, or it's a nice scenic view or a sunset view, all that stuff matters. So I generally try to stay around the 3 to 5% range. I try not to overdo it too much. But those things really, they can really categorically change the value of the house. I don't care so much about fireplaces, honestly. Most people don't use them and don't want them. Uh, air conditioning. Air conditioning depends highly on the area that you're in. If this is East County where it's hot as fuck all the time, like you're gonna have to have AC because you can't live in it otherwise. But coastal house like Carlsbad, whether it has AC or not, makes little to no difference because they're not even gonna use it anyway. They're just gonna open up their windows. So you just got to be smart about where you're located. All right. And we'll get into more detail on these things as we go, but that's the rub on the sheet. Use the sheet to help guide your adjustments. Now we're going to get into actually looking into the MLS and how to use the MLS to pull up these adjustments. So in order to do that, we're going to go to the MLS. I want you guys to get assistant access to the MLS as well, so you can get in here and do this. I'll show you that in a second. Gonna go here to Paragon. Paragon is just a platform. It's like Ethan for us. It's like Nalcomas. Um, what we do here is we can actually see all the properties that are on the market officially and without any restrictions. So we get full access to all the confidential remarks and everything. So you got the top bar up here. I've chosen you can choose different themes for the way that your MLS looks. Mine has the beach theme because I decided under preferences to change it to the beach theme. Uh, System, I believe. And then user interface. Select the theme. You could do blue. That's what everybody gets as a standard. July 4th. 80s. What's 80s? Oh, that's fucking fire. Yeah, it's pretty stupid, but I like beach. Anyways, it's not important. All right, you got the search bar up here. On the search bar, you can go through and find all different types of like listing categories. I'll spare you guys the trouble. You're 99% of the time just going to do residential. Lot and land, very seldom. 2 to 4 units, very seldom. And none of this other stuff, like ever. Okay. Over here, if you've ever saved a property search, yeah, if you've done a search for somebody in the past, like they're looking for a 2 bedroom, 2 bath in La Mesa, instead of creating a whole new one, you can just be like, hey, I already built one of those. You can go there, click it, and use it as a template. But we're going to do one from scratch. All right. We got all the criteria to fill out here. And there's a ton of stuff in here, but we're not going to use most of it. We'll only use like maybe 8 pieces of this. Okay. A lot of people want to start right away with mapping, and I'll tell you why you don't want to do that. And it's because all the other criteria is unselected, so it's going to grab every fucking house on the market that's in a map area if you do that. And it's going to slow this whole process down by like 5 minutes because it's going to like, as soon as you click mapping, it's going to be, oh, let me pull up every house that's on the market for you and then let you draw a circle. Don't do it. Put criteria in first and then go to the map. So residential styles, you can go over here, you can click the little magnifying glass and see the drop downs. Attached, which is mostly every like condo or townhome or twin home. Detached, which is a standalone, Mayberry house. Modular home is uh that's a term that we like never actually use in Southern California. So even though a home might be a modular home, like it might be listed as one because the builder's like, yeah, we're selling modular homes. They're going to input this, and everybody else in the world's going to input it as a manufactured home, right? So just wouldn't even worry about looking for that. And even manufactured home, be honest with you, they're going to list that as a detached home. Even though it's manufactured, even though it's made in a factory and assembled on site, they're still going to list it as a detached home on the MLS. So I would just go to detached home. God help you if you get into mobile homes. Hope you don't. Townhomes, twin homes are actually under the category of attached properties. So if you're looking for a townhome or twin home, you can look for basically all three of these: attached, townhome, and twin home, and it'll pull up results. Some agents will put a townhome in as a townhome. Others will put it in as just attached. So if I'm doing a search, I'm going to search for both of those because no two agents do things alike, and you just got to understand that. A twin home is an attached home because it's two properties that share a wall. But a row home is a detached property that shares a wall. And I know that doesn't make fucking sense because you're like, Matt, if it shares a wall, how come it's not attached? Because it sounds like it's attached. And the thing is, it's almost attached. When you have a house and it's made of 2x4s, a detached home has all its own 2x4s, its own 2x4s, and then siding goes around the 2x4s. An attached home is where homes share a 2x4 and then siding goes over that 2x4. But a row home is where two 2x4s are right next to each other with just a small enough gap that you can stick a pencil and then siding goes over it. So with a row home, you could demolish a full house in between. And even though there's only that, 1 centimeter gap between the 2x4s, the houses next to it will still be standing. And that makes it technically a detached home. There are some neighborhoods in San Diego where you have row homes that will be listed as detached correctly. And you'll be like, what the fuck? These are townhomes. Or they'll be listed incorrectly as townhomes. And then you look at the title and you're like, wait a second, this is a fucking detached home. Like, what? This doesn't make sense. Well, that's why. So anyways, let's just say we're going to look for a detached home. Click that guy. You can also go in here and just hit DET or D, and it'll automatically pop up different pop downs. I do that. I don't go to the magnifying glass. You're going to pick your county. Let's just say, and this happens a lot. Like if you're looking for a house in Temecula, like, oh, none of these fucking homes are popping up. It's because you clicked the wrong county. You can even get rid of the county, honestly, if you use the map, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what county it's in if you use map. If someone's like, oh, I want to live in La Mesa, go to the zip area, start to type out La Mesa, and it'll show you the zip codes that apply to La Mesa. Inversely, you can go over to the magnifying glass and you can just scroll down and hit the L's. I think it's on the next page. Yep, there we go. La Mesa, La Mesa. Me, when I'm getting ready to do a CMA or whatever, or a search for somebody, and they're like, yeah, these are the areas I want to live in. Like I generally will go through and just click all the ones that are in that area because I understand like what the map looks like and where all the houses are. But if you don't, then you can just go to the map, find La Mesa, and then draw a big fat circle or a polygon? Polygon. Yeah. So let's just say we're looking for a detached home in La Mesa. This down here is the status. So this is going to look for homes that are active on the market or back on market. Now, if we're doing a search, those are the ones that we want. If we're doing a CMA, we want to see what's sold or what is under contract. In that case, we're going to do sold or pending. In this case, since we're just doing a search, I'll leave it as active and back on market. Now, cast your eyes up here to the right. You see this 70 right here. And the 70 right here indicates how many homes that are actually fitting this criteria as I go. Every time I fill in one of these blanks, it's telling me, hey, this is how many I got so far that meet that. If it hasn't refreshed, you can hit the count button and it'll recount it. So far, detached homes in La Mesa right now, there's only 70. Now we're going to go down here, hit the beds and baths. You do min to max. So if someone wants a 3 bedroom, I'm going to put a 2. If someone wants a 1.5 bedroom, I'm going to do 1 and go from there. You can see that eliminated all but one house in Mesa. So let's take that from my 3-2. That only cut out 11. So that's pretty good. So let's say 3-2 and a minimum of 1,000 square feet, which probably won't change it very much. Let's do 1,500 square feet. And that dropped it down to just 48 houses there, which is fucking piss poor. That's a very low number of houses. All right, you can also put in a price up here and say I don't want anything more than 1.2 million. Boom, holy shit, dropped off 30 of those properties. If you want to buy a 3-2 in La Mesa, expect to pay more than 1.2 million for it. Yowza! All right, now we're down to a number that we like. A couple other things you can do is age restrictions not equal to 55 and up or 62 or other remarks. If you're looking for homes in North County, that's going to be a problem for you a lot. To be like, oh, I found a house for 300,000. It's perfect. And you look at it, and you're like, yeah, but you're not 62. Those are price controlled. So, well, they're deed restricted. So to say they're price controlled means that they're age controlled and people can only afford so much. So therefore they're price controlled. So we're going to make sure that we don't fall into that trap. Some people are like, I absolutely have to have a garage. That's when you come in here. That only changes a little bit. And I generally leave all the rest of these open, especially for the basic search, because agents don't put the information in like very accurately. So you can weed out a lot of houses that are good homes for you just because the agent didn't do data entry correctly. So you don't want to cut too sharply. You want to be a little bit more broad and then use like actually go one by one and then rule out anything that doesn't fit. As far as features goes, actually, let's see here. I want to go to where's my terms button? I'm gonna click this button here. You can scroll down here to terms, item BQ, and you can click to look for VA only. What terms talks about is like what modes of financing they're okay with. Sellers don't have to take your offer if it comes with a loan because they don't want to deal with the loan contingency. They can say cash only. Or they can say, I don't want VA or I don't want FHA, conventional loans only. Like, for example, if somebody's trying to buy a condo in a condo complex and that condo complex is mostly owned by investors, it won't be approved for VA through the VA or FHA through the FHA. In which case, you can't get a loan on it, and they will say in the terms, hey, just cash or conventional only, right? But if you wanted to look for homes that are just VA approved for your clients, you could click this button. I'll tell you why you don't want to do that though. And that's because some of the best deals I've ever gotten were from agents who don't know anything about VA loans and they just don't put VA on there to say they accept it. And you go in and you do the research, you're like, hey, this house will go VA. And you tell the listing agent, hey, will you take a VA offer? And they'd be like, oh, didn't think about that. Yeah, okay. But if you selected for it and looked for that criteria, you would have missed that house. So I never do that. I always put it on my listings, but I never only search for VA approved houses. That's where that's at if you ever want to find it. It's under the features section. If you want to put a limit for HOA, you can drop it in here to say, we're not going to pay any more than, $500 a month for HOA. You can see in here, like if I put no more than 200, it's going to cut something out. Yeah, cut off one house. All right. Same with Melrose, but that's enough. That's plenty. And then everything that you selected, you can see the shortcut over here just shows you the cliff notes of what you chose, and you can go through and do change them or click it off over here if you want. So that's a pretty good search. We're gonna hit the search button, and then it's gonna pull up the list of homes right here. This is the agent one line view is what this is called. And the view you can see over here, or sorry, property system grid is what that's called. You can go over to CMA and you can do a CMA summary just based off of what you see. What's cool about this is it takes all the houses, it strays out the beds, the baths, and the square footage, and then gives you the averages for the neighborhood. So if you got a house in mind, you can say, hey, how does this stack up against most homes in La Mesa? So the average home in this group that we pulled is a 3-2, 10,400 square foot lot going for about $1 million, built in 1953. That's the average home. The median home is a 3-2 with only 8,000 square foot, built in 1988, and it's just a little over $1 million. Right. If you were doing active, pending, and sold, you'd have an active section here, and then down here would be a pending section, and then below that would be a sold section. Here's a CMA quick view, which we don't want to do this with 15 homes because that's just way too many houses. I'm gonna go back to this is the agent one sheet, just the basic breakdown for an agent, what a listing looks like from the MLS point of view. This is where we thumb through all the photos, see what it looks like. This is a nice place, cute place, a shitty building, but good interior. Address and APN are up here, prices up here to the right. Confidential remarks down here is what the public can't see, but we get to see as agents. You got a little map down here that you can scroll around with. It's pretty cool. Size of the house, size of the lot. Down here is where it says FHA, VA, cash, or conventional. So, anyways, and back out of that, and back out of that, and back out of that. I'm going to go back up here to criteria button. And I'm going to go to mapping, right? So let's just say I don't want to have these zip areas. I want to see what the map looks like. So I'm going to go here to this section and I'm going to say La Mesa Boulevard, no, 1025 La Mesa Boulevard, Mesa. Hit the search button and it's going to drop a pin. You see the little flag right there. I can zoom right in on that little pin. Now this section right here, I can go to miles and I can type in 0.5 miles or zero point 0.8 or zero point 0.2 or 1 mile, 5 miles, whatever. But I'm gonna do 0.5 miles and hit a search radius and it's gonna drop a circle around that flag. So if I go over here to the button, I can click that radius and I can better center that circle on my area here. Okay. Now what I've done is I've dropped a pin around that house for half a mile. Let's go back to criteria. And then I'm going to take the zip area off. So it's one or the other. You either do the mapping or you do the zip area. Now that's a circle. Go back here. I can go to the map. Just click the map search button right here. I can kill that circle. And then if I want, I can go in and say I want to draw a polygon. Just hit the draw button and do a polygon. Let's say somebody's like, oh, I want a house that is south of the 8 and west of the 125, blah blah blah, north of the 94. Some people are just kind of weird like that. And then east of 70th Street. Boom. Now you got your nice little polygon. Now this makes sense for some people because they're like, well, there's a big difference in the neighborhoods between south of the 8 and north of the 8. They're two completely different areas. So you want to choose accordingly. That drops in 4 houses right there. Hit the search button, and these are the 4 homes in that area. So that's the basics of the search, right? If you want to share the search with somebody, you can email it. You can hit the share button and send a collab link. You can save it to their personal account right here by saving the listing cart. You could also print it out, however you want to share it from there. Okay. Now, that's the basics of the search. You need to be able to do the search because you're going to have to be able to find listings that you're going to do a CMA on. So I'm going to go back to criteria and I'm going to save that polygon. Instead of looking for active and back on market properties, I'm going to look for pending and sold properties. All right. Now, over here, you'll notice there's an off market date or close of escrow date. It's okay to do both, but either way, you want to look for something that's either got sold or went off the market 6 months back, one way or the other. And you'll notice here, under these criteria, I got 25 houses. That's actually really good inside that polygon. What we would typically do is just draw a half-mile pin. We wouldn't really draw the polygon, but in this case, I'll just leave the polygon with the search button. Now you'll notice there's a lot pending. That's actually good. That means the market's very much alive in La Mesa right now. It's a pleasant surprise. And then the rest of these guys sold. With the information available, I can go over here to the reports. I can go down to CMA and I can do a quick summary just to get an idea what we're dealing with. Actually, I'm gonna take that off. I'm gonna take the price off because if I'm looking for if I'm looking to see what things are selling for, I don't want a price limit on this. Let's do that again. Now we're going to go down to CMA, do a quick CMA summary. And at a glance, the pending homes, the average pending home has been on the market for 66 days. That's very important for us to know as a listing agent. Sold for about $1 million, and it's about a 3.2, and it's about 2,000 square feet. The median homes right at 2,000 square feet, about 52 days on market and just under $1 million. Very consistent. That's a 4-bed, 2-bath. So if someone's looking to sell a house like that, chances are it'll sell. The ones that did sell, got an average down here, 2,000 square foot, about 1,085,000. Listed for 1,085,000, sold for 1,096,000. So that's good. That's the average for La Mesa, pendings and solds. Let's go back. Now what we're going to do for CMA is we can't use pending homes for a CMA because a comparable market analysis means we're actually looking at homes that sold to know what they sold for. This house that's pending was listed at 988, but I don't know what offer they took. They might have taken an offer for 800,000. So for me to do a CMA off of that with incomplete information, it would be inaccurate and I would be giving bad information to people. So I'm not going to do that. I look at that and say, okay, well, this is pretty telling. I can call those agents and say, hey, do you mind sharing with me what that sold for, what you think it's going to close at? And some agents will be forthcoming, other agents will be guarded. There's like this really kind of ancient practice in real estate where they're like, well, I don't want to tell you what the price was until it sells. I'm like, well, fucking why, you know? Um, Me personally, I'll tell people unless I think that it's not going to close and I took a number that was really much lower than list price because I wouldn't want to advertise that I accepted a much lower offer than what it was listed at. So if I go back out to market again, I don't want to go back out to market weak and people be like, "Oh, I heard it went for 800." I don't want to put that out there, you know. But for the most part, if I'm selling it for, at or more than what we got under contract for, I'm just going to be honest with people so they can do their job. So sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. If they tell you you can use it, if they don't, you can't. So what we'll do is you can go over here, any one of these houses, and you click the MLS number. It's a hyperlink that takes you to the listing itself. Daniel Tallman, I know this guy. He's a house flipper. He was a grade A asshole to me, but uh, I still think he's a good guy. Weird. What we're doing is we want to look for homes that are very similar to our house, apples to apples, right? If you're comparing a single level to a two-story house, one that's from 1940 compared to one that's from 2015, one with a view, one that doesn't, one with a pool, one that doesn't, one that's in an HOA community versus one that's, an old mountain house. They might be in the same area, but they are not the same house. They're not going to attract the same buyer. They're not going to attract the same price and offer. You want to try to avoid those. So the first thing that you'll do is go through house by house. And once you get to this page here, you can actually just click up here in the top right corner just to go one by one through the houses instead of clicking the back button and then going back to the list, finding your next place and dropping down. Sometimes I'll go back to this view and I'll just look because I can see like, um, you know, 1,600 square foot versus 2,700, 4-bed versus 3-bed, 1.2 versus 1.25. I'll just be like, yeah, some of these just aren't going to, they're not even close, right? So you can just kind of thumb through them that way. If you find one you like that actually fits your criteria, just click the green or click the check button over here and it'll save it. Let's just say we get like 3 or 4 that we really like. We're like, all right, these are very, very similar to ours. We like these. You click them and then you go up here and hit this checked button and it'll eliminate all the others from your view. So you're just seeing what you care about. If you're like, oh, fucked up, I need to go back, then just uncheck it. And then hit the all button. The all button will bring them all back again. All the other ones that don't really fit your criteria, don't worry about it, leave them off. And these, let's just say these four houses right here, say that these are really consistent with, what we think our house will sell for. We want to save those. What I'll do is go over here to the export button and then export this list to a CSV file. And I'll do the selected listings. And the reason that I'll do that is because I want to go here. Open up. And I want to go over to the MLS numbers. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to copy all the MLS numbers. You might be thinking, well, Matt, you could have easily just copied all four of those numbers one by one. Yeah, but sometimes you're doing a CMA and you got 15 of these fucking things. So I just do the same process every time, whether it's four houses or 15. Go here, copy those. Paste them, and then just go right down the line and draw a comma between all the first ones. Not the very last one, just all the first ones. Copy that just like it is, right? Easy peasy. That took me like no time at all. Like 45 seconds, I got that done, right? I do not want to save. Now, I want to remind you guys of that in a minute. So let's just say, all right, somebody's got a house on Mesa. They're like, how much is my house worth? I do a quick search and I look for homes that are mostly like theirs. Now I can go and create a CMA. So I'm gonna go up here to the CMA button at the top, right up here where my little sunshine is. Create a presentation. Presentation name. And I'm gonna say La Mesa, Tom and Sally. Doesn't really matter. Now, if you already have an existing property that you're going to compare these to, you can put the existing MLS number right here. So let's just say I'm going to use this one on Mariposa. I'm going to just make believe that this is the one that I'm going to try to sell. I'm going to drop that MLS number in. Now it's going to put that on the left-hand side of the screen and say, all right, this is the house that you're looking to sell. We're going to compare that in a line item against the other four. Go down here and click the client. Uh, you don't even have to add a client in here, but let's just say we're going to create a new one. Tom uh, Smith, home email, Tom Smitty at yahoo.com. And then click to add additional client information down here. And you can do Sally Smith. And you can do Silly Sally Smitty at yahoo.com. Tom will be the primaries. And then down here it says add spouse secondary to notifications. Go ahead and add that. Okay. I hit the save button there. Now we've got a client in place. Next, we go to the comparables. All those houses that we searched for, the apples to oranges, right here. We add the comparable. And then because we already did all the work, we're just going to go down here to the bottom and add the specific MLS number. Boom. Those are all the houses that we wanted to put in there. We're going to go down to adjustments next. And we're not going to do calculated adjustments, just do adjustments. All right. Now that we're here in adjustments, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got our subject property, the one that we're going to hope to get a listing for. potentially, or the one that we're putting in an offer on, whatever. And then the right-hand side are the comparables, the ones that compare to ours. It's important that you get this terminology correctly. Subject property, comparable properties. We're going to make dollar adjustments on value, but we're not making dollar adjustments to our subject property value. We're going to be making adjustments to what the comparable properties sold for. And that's going to make sense in a couple of minutes. But remember, we don't adjust the subject property, we adjust the comparable. Just lock that into your brain. Okay. You'll notice there is a handful of information that's already populated right here in this little breakdown. And it's because I curated it this way. You can go up under the fields button right here, and you can decide what shows up in this little list by adding and taking things away. I've done this in the past, and I know what I care about that's automatically populated in here. The address, the MLS number, when it's sold. When it actually went under contract is very important. We're going to make adjustments for that. The bed bath count, the square footage, how many parking spaces, even the view is listed right here. Does it have air conditioning and then a lot square footage? Those are all the things that are already in the system. I don't need to create a new line item for those. I just need to make sure that they showed up because the data entry is already there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the stuff that this doesn't tell me. So I go over here under my Save Adjust button. You guys won't have anything under here. You'll open this column up and it'll be blank because you have to create these the first time. After you create it the first time, it'll always be there in your toolbox, right? So what I would recommend you guys do is when you open up your own MLS, create line items for ADU. Backs to a freeway or church, or is it on a cul-de-sac? Backyard quality, bathroom quality, flooring quality, interior paint, kitchen quality, bathroom quality, things that the listing can't tell you. Now, I'm going to go line by line, just click the ones that I think matter for this hypothetical house on the Mesa. So, none of the houses that I saw came with an ADU. And if none of them came with an ADU, then I'm not going to put in a line item for it because it's irrelevant. We already have an air conditioning button on there, so there's no need to do that twice. Backyard quality, bathroom quality, possibly a busy road. Closing cost credit, that actually matters. Is it on a cul-de-sac? Exterior condition, flooring quality, high ceilings. I didn't see any that had a hot tub. You don't have to worry about laundry so much with detached homes. It matters with condos because laundry being in a shared facility versus being in unit, whether you can do your laundry naked or not, matters to people. There's a dollar value for that. Interior quality, kitchen quality. Got a section here for pool, RV driveways, single story or two-story. Does it have solar? Windows and doors, and even a zip line. I've had to compare a house to another house that had a fun zip line on it. Yeah, I'll go ahead and add all those in. Don't worry about the numbers that automatically populate, just zero those out. All right. What you can do here from this image is you can actually click the thumbnail and bring up the picture of the house very quickly right here from your screen without having to leave this screen. But if you want to see something like that can only be found on the listing, then you need to copy the MLS number and then go over to the listing. So what I like to do is I like to create a shortcut that has all the listings on it and a different tab that I can just go look at real quick. You do this about 10,000 times, you start to learn. So just go over here to the home button. And this is a quick search right here. You see quick search. You can go under quick search down here to the MLS portion and then just copy and paste all your MLS numbers, including your subject property. Hit the search. Now you'll notice you got your CMA button right here, which is where you're doing all your analysis. And then in quick search, you got all the houses at your fingertips. So if I'm looking at Glen Street and I'm like, ah, fuck, I don't know if Glen Street has solar or not, I can go here, open it up and look at it and see if they've got any mention of it. Or what's the HOA or their closing cost credits? Like right here, for example, closing costs, 8,500 bucks. This looks like it's cut off, so I'm going to change this view to agent preferred to a different view. Let's see. Um, Concessions. Closing costs 5,000 and then the remain in place was $3,500 and a penny. I don't know why that penny is so important. Oh, I did a deal with Laura Rindale. I actually did two deals. She sold me my brother's house. 8,500 bucks in total concessions. So when I look at that, I think this thing sold for 890 minus 8,500 bucks. So call it uh 881. Call it 881 was the actual sale price of the property, all things considered. Okay. So that's how you have all those at a quick glance so you can easily get over and look at them. Now we're just going to go straight from the top, go line by line and compare all these. So close of escrow date, I'm not worried about, but pending date matters. All right. Something you got to keep in mind is if we're in a market that's escalating like crazy and home prices are going up 1%, sometimes 2% per month, like we had in COVID, a house that sold 3 months ago could be ten or $15,000 different than a home that sold today. That's real quantifiable value. So you need to be able to calculate the date that it went pending compared to today's date and then add a number over here for that escalating market. For us, 11/20 of 2024 to now, it's not really a whole lot different because it's just been kind of icy ever since then. So I'm going to say that we're completely flat there. I'm not going to make any changes. Bedrooms are the same, 3 bed, 2 bath, exactly the same, but we do have a difference in square feet. All right, so now that we see that, we're going to go to our adjustment sheet. Now we're looking at a single family home and we're looking in the, let's just say 1 to 1 point. I'm going to go with the 1 to 1.2 million range just because I think that this house is closer to the 1 millions than the 800s. So we go down to its living grade or whatever, gross living area above grade. And in our category, we're talking anywhere from 90 to 120 bucks a square feet. This actually is probably a lot higher now because this was a couple of years back. But let's just go with the 120, 120 bucks per square foot calculation. We're gonna go to our handy dandy calculator and say 1857 minus 1647. It's 35. Man, ain't fucking right. 1857 minus 1647, 210 square feet. We're going to multiply that times 120 That's $25,200 difference between the houses. Now, in this case, we're saying the subject or the comparable property is inferior to our property. So the way to look at this is like, how do I add value to this comparable property so that it's equal to mine? And if it's better than mine, how do I chop it down so that it's equal to mine? So in this case, this house is weak. So I'm going to give this house extra value to bring it up to my level. So it answers the question, if that house had sold with 200 more square foot, how much more would it have sold for? It would have sold for 915 versus 8 something or other. So we're going to add the 25,000 to it as opposed to taking away 25,000. The difference in the houses is 12 years. So we know that it's $1,000 a year, but we're going to skip 10 years. So this is only a $2,000 difference. The comparable is inferior. So we're going to boost it up so that it's more like ours. Parking garage spaces. We got a 1 car versus a 2 car garage. One car to 2 car, it's going to be a $20,000 difference. So this one is inferior to ours. We're going to give it value to make it equal to us. And you can see this adjusted price down here is changing in real time. We went from, what was it, 890 that it sold for? And we're already at 937. All right, under let's see, I should have one in here for concessions. Closing cost credit. I know that was $8,900. And because it's actually a reduction in the sale price, that one is actually going to still be a negative because it's the same as saying it's sold for less. So this is one of the ones that it doesn't compensate, it just passes through directly. Ours appears to have views, and this one appears, the comparable appears to not have views. Agents lie. So let's see if that's true or not. I don't really know that we have a great view. There we go. That's pretty okay. I mean, it's not breathtaking, but you got some mountains there, a little skyline. Wait, here we go. So from this back deck, you got a little bit more skyline. It's okay. I mean, it's kind of a La Mesa view. Yeah, not breathtaking. Let's see what we got here. I see power lines and neighbors. Super cute yard. Well, one has in the value of the view, the other one has the value in flat topography. So that's going to come up. They are correct. One has a view, one does not have a view. So if we were to go with 3%, which would be the lowest version of that for the view, we would be doing 3% of the comparable properties value, not 3% of the subject, because we don't make any adjustments based on the subject property. We only make adjustments to what the comparable property would have sold for. So we're going to say 3% of 881 because we have to take out the concessions. 881 times 0.03. $26,000 view. I copy that. Now, again, our property is inferior, so we're going to add the 26,000 to our weak property to boost it up so that it's more like the other one. Both have central air. The lot square footage, our subject property over here is smaller than the comparable property is smaller than the subject property technically, but it has all usable space. I'm not going to make any adjustments on the lot square footage right now. I'm going to make my adjustments purely to backyard quality. And that's enough, as I don't want to have a double entry for square footage and quality. I'm going to just wrap it all up under quality. Now, if we look at this, I'm just going to go backwards actually. That's a cute view. It's pretty. I really don't have any friggin' yard at all. It's just all rocks and slope. Eesh, that's it. That's what you get. Piece of concrete, a tree, hot tub. I mean, it's not horrible, but there's like really no yard there at all. This has really cute frontage that looks like it's fresh sod or turf. A nice little walkway. It's a house you want to trick or treat. That chicken coop or a shed over here might have a little chicken coop. It's flat. It's pretty. It's got paved stones. It's either nicely manicured grass or turf. Got a little play area, a shade tree. You kind of got to ask yourself, like, how much more would a person pay to have this nice backyard versus the other one? And my instincts tell me that somebody would pay probably $20,000 for that backyard versus one that doesn't have one. I think that's being pretty modest, so I'm going to say deduct $20,000 because theirs is a lot better than ours. All right, bathroom quality. The backyard quality one does not show up on this rubric over here. Just so you know, that's one that you just got to know. And that's just, not everything is codified. Should add it on there though. And I'm looking for bathrooms right now. I try to go down the list, as best I can, but you're going to be thumbing through a lot of photos. All right. When we look at bathrooms and kitchens, we look at three like levels just to keep it simple. You got dated, which was, piece of shit. It's 40 years old or it's run down. Then you got builder grade, which is like it's adequate. Maybe it's 10 years old, nothing special, haven't remodeled it, but it's clean and nice. And then you got upgraded. You have to try your best just to keep it in those three levels to make life easier for yourself because people's taste differ. There's things that I'm like, hey, it's upgraded. That's worth a lot more. And somebody walks in and like, ew, I hate that color. Or, ew, I hate those fucking that backsplash or whatever. And it's like, well, all right. So just, try to keep your feelings out of it and just, keep it into those three categories. What I see here is I'm gonna say lightly upgraded. This is not a factory mirror. This is not a factory uh, It's probably like a factory counter with an upgraded countertop or a vanity with the upgraded top. They've decorated it nicely. Looks like the shower's old though. They don't really show the shower. It's that old subway tile. Here we go. So shower's pretty bobo. Shower's like dated. With those two things combined, a dated shower and a lightly upgraded, I'm just gonna say that's just builder grade over average. And you want to do the adjustments per bathroom. They don't really distinguish those two bathrooms for us very well. I think they know that they're not the highlight of the listing, so they just, did the minimum. This is properly upgraded. We got a full tile shower back here with glass enclosures. This is a whole new vanity with shaker cabinets, whole new light with a backsplash. It's a dual vanity. That's good to go. Very nice, actually. That's one. I'm looking for the other one. It is kind of weird that the dining room is next to this shower, though. I don't know if you noticed that. All right, this is the other one. We got a nice tub, full tile shower with the glass enclosure. Everything's upgraded, very clean, very nice. So we got two upgraded baths versus two builder grade baths. So let's go to our sheet. All right. You see this goes from dated to builder and then builder to upgraded. Okay. We are going from builder to upgraded and we're in this range. So we're going to do 7,500 to 15,000 per bathroom. I'm feeling like these bathrooms are pretty starkly different. So I'm gonna say 15,000. I'm just gonna go for the high end for both of them. So two bathrooms at 15,000 a pop. We got $30,000 difference in bathroom. If the other one was dated compared to upgraded, if we made that determination, then we would be making a $10,000 to $15,000 adjustment plus a 75 to $15,000 adjustment. So it could be as much as $30,000 per bathroom if we were going from dated to upgraded. So we're going to say 15,000 a pop, 30,000 total on the difference in the bathrooms. These need to have a injection to make them better, so we're going to boost it up by 30,000. Are we on a busy road? The only way to know is to look at the map. We are on Glen Street, which does not appear to be a not busy road. If it were on Washington, I would like that a lot better. All I did here was just right click and then you can click aerial and then you can see like this view. That is a wide road. It's got like a big old speed bump right there. And I know this part of La Mesa, guaranteed people are fucking whipping and ripping through here as opposed to one of these little side streets. I would much prefer we were on one of these streets right here. So for this one, I'm gonna give them a $5,000 hit. Let's go to our subject property. Subject property. I know where Panorama is. These are all slow mountain roads. It's not a nice road, but it's quiet. So I'm gonna say that's worth $7,000 for the busy road. The comparable sucks, so we're gonna bring it up. Exterior condition. I think both of them are quite nice on the exterior. Flooring quality. We got a nice tile in the kitchen. That's a porcelain tile, but it's, decent quality. It's got texture to it. It's not shiny. It's a fake travertine look. And then we've got that's a that's an engineered hardwood, so it's middle of the road. Let's see what's in the bedrooms. And the bedrooms just have basic carpet, nothing special. And the bathrooms have that same tile. So we're doing pretty good on floors here. These have that looks like a real hardwood floor, which would be it's still middle of the road, but in my opinion, it's superior. But those tiles are, kind of crappy. So I think what we gain in the hardwoods, we kind of lose in the tiles. See how they're kind of shiny. And bathroom tiles are just so-so. We do have hardwoods in all the rooms though. So we're gonna have to give an upgrade for that. I'm gonna make a judgment that probably 30% of this house is bedrooms versus living space per shared space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a deduction on flooring for 30% of the house. So we're going to take 30% of 1647. It's 494 feet. And then we're going to make an adjustment for, we're going to go from carpet to hardwood floors. So I'm going to just do $6 a square foot because these are all pretty modest anyway. So that's only a change of about 3,000. Honestly, I feel like you could probably bump that up to 5,000 pretty easily, so I'm gonna go with that. Because people who hate carpet fucking hate carpet. Floor and quality need a shot in the arm of 5,000. High ceilings. I don't believe either one of these properties had them. This has an archway, but it's not a high ceiling. Nope, that's a regular standard ceiling. So we're going to pass on that one. Interior quality. All right. When it comes to interior, we're already making adjustments for windows and doors, floors, bathrooms, and kitchens. So a lot of that interior stuff's already spoken for. We need to be careful not to double dip. So what we're going to look for with interior quality is staging or just interior decoration. It has a huge impact on the way people feel about a property. Paint condition and color choice matters a lot. If somebody has a house and it's all painted in black paint, that's not going to work for us because that looks horrible. Then we're going to look for things like flush mounted lights, ceiling fans, plantation shutters, or nice curtains, or window treatments. We're going to look for baseboards and crown molding. We're going to look for doors and door handles, all the stuff that makes the house look fresh and new and inviting versus an old crappy one. I try to avoid the kitchen, but this like kind of green taupe look is not what's up. Not not a great wall color. That's like pea soup. And here we've got this kind of like what you'd paint a baby's room in. This kind of like they were going for a gray, but ended up with kind of a powder blue. And it does not work well with these floors, so let's be honest. It's got flush mounted lights, but this fan is pretty bobo. I don't see holes in the walls or anything like that, but I also don't see any doors. This room's got a kind of a talc thing going on. Does not match the floors at all. Does have a ceiling fan, but a Bobo one. Layout factors in a lot of these as well, so kind of consider that. All right. Wasn't loving the paint colors, and I didn't see much in the way of like window treatments and stuff, but we did have flush mounted lights and it was clean. Versus a much more appropriate wall color floor combination. Love the brick fireplace, flush mounted lights, better. It's a nice door and it's a better ceiling fan. This is staged. Got a nice little plant in the corner, a little dining table. This thing feels clean and vibrant. We got some that's an older glass over there. That's the kind of windows where the glass like opens. Decent ceiling fan. I like that they've got like consistent colors throughout. This is quite nice. You see all the shutters above on the windows above the bed. Those are expensive. Super minimal molding and baseboards. It's cute though. It's real clean. Till the doors are they look fairly new. Hardware looks pretty new. That's a nice light fixture. That is a split unit AC up there. This is virtually staged. All right. Interior condition wise, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to give it a flat 10 grand that it needs to come up. That's pretty conservative in my opinion, but I don't want to like spend all day belaboring the point. Kitchen quality. This thing has a shitload of storage off the cuff. Countertops kind of suck, but we got stainless steel appliances. It's actually quite nice appliances. But that dining table thing is like pretty claustrophobic. Not super loving the kitchen. And again, the kitchen goes dated, uh, builder and upgraded. And then you want to factor in the color of the kitchen, the size of the kitchen, and the flavor of the appliances. Those are all very
Can you say
important.
that again for the color of the kitchen or
Say
the
again.
kitchen? Can you say that again about the kitchen? Color of the kitchen.
The number of the cabinets, the size of the kitchen, and the flavor of the appliances. So, and now I'll show you that on the rubric right now. All right. So this kitchen doesn't really match this house, unfortunately. But if you pay close attention, you see that it's got these marble flavored quartz countertops, which are expensive, white floors, white cabinets with black handles, and very basic stainless steel appliances. This, by all measures, is like the ideal contemporary kitchen. The only problem is it just kind of feels very sterile because they chose white floors, which I think was probably not a great idea. It didn't add a lot of contrast. But if we take the floors out of it, it is a really nice kitchen. It's got a ton of cabinets, I would say pretty on par with the other house. The other house has a little breakfast nook thing. This one apparently doesn't. They just have a proper dining room over here. But then they have that one dining room that's got a bathroom next to it, so the layout's kind of wacky. So to draw the difference between these two, I would say that color, size, I don't even think is really that much different. Color of the cabinets and the wall colors here is better than the other one, and our countertops are far superior. So that's not a huge drastic change. Oddly enough, this house seems like it's just like whipping the shit out of our comp, except for that. All right, so if you go to appliances here, you see that from white to black, black is like the more desirable than white appliances, and then stainless steel is more desirable than all the others. So you could do a total adjustment of up to 10 grand just for stainless steel appliances, probably more than that now. And then you're gonna upgrade even more if they have like high-end stainless steel, like Viking or Wolf or uh, shit, I can't think of the name of the other one. But anyways, if they're very expensive, you're gonna add value for that. I don't see any difference here between our appliances. Really, I like the ones actually in our comp better, but it's stainless versus stainless. Kitchen, kitchens have the biggest, like aside from the view, they have the biggest swing of everything. You could have $100,000 difference from one kitchen to the other, depending on the house. In this case, since we're really only talking about a few basic things, I think we're really going from like light upgrade to light upgrade. So I'm only gonna make some small adjustments for the things that I think matter. White cabinets versus brown, better countertops, and a better wall color. So I'm gonna say probably just about 15 grand difference between the two. And that would be our comp is more inferior, so we need to add value to our comp to bring it up. Solar, I don't think either one of these had solar. Control F, solar does not mention it. And this one has fully paid solar system. So in order to find out how big that solar system is, we're going to go here and we're going to look at the house on the aerial view. And that's not a huge solar system. It's probably adequate. I'm going to give them a $20,000 value for that. I don't know how much it's worth, but I think 20 grand's probably about right. CMA. And that's going to be a deduction of 20,000 because our comparable actually is more superior. All right, windows and doors. We're looking for front door and sliding doors, and then windows. We're looking for dual pane versus single pane, vinyl versus aluminum, that whole thing. So those are dual pane vinyls for sure. I just want to make sure they are throughout the house. And it's tough to say, but that seems to be a vinyl sliding door as well. All right, so we've fully upgraded on that guy. Well, let's see what our subject property has. Those look like original windows because of those old-fashioned flippy windows. But that's an upgraded sliding door. Uh, that's tough to tell. That might be an original vertical slider. Those are definitely original. Those are definitely original. All right, so I'm gonna say 7,500 bucks. goes to our comparable property. All right. So that first property is done. You'll do the next three properties the exact same way. And I'm just gonna say like I'm just gonna skip it for now. So let's just imagine we did the other three properties, right? Once that's done, you go down to, you don't really need theme, fuck theme. Just go to presentation setup. And then you want to go to the horizontal view. Just click the little button. And then let's make sure we save everything. Then hit view presentation. Generate the CMA. It's gonna make the baby. And it'll go right down the list and it'll show all the adjustments that we made for each one of these properties listed here. So when you sit down with your clients, they're like, how'd you come up with this value? You say, well, these are all the things that are different about these two properties. And this is the dollar value assigned to each one of those things. So it started out being a house that sold for what we thought was 890, but at the end of the day, if it was like ours, it would have been 974, which means I think our house is going to sell for 974, if you ask me. Now we didn't do it on these, but if we did, it would all show here the same way. And then at the very bottom is the important piece that we need. This whole chart right here is where it tells us the story. So this adjusted number down here under adjust price and median, that is going to be my generally recommended number for people. Now you could kind of vacillate between average or median, somewhere in that range. You could split it and say, I think 985. Let's just say 985, or whatever. But when they ask what you think it's going to sell for, that's going to be your magic number. Now, do we need to list it at 985 to get 985? I don't know. That's a listing strategy. That's a marketing strategy question. That's for a different topic. But what I think it's worth, if an appraiser were to come appraise this house, that's the number I think they'd come up with. And so, what we should expect if we do our jobs correctly, we should at least hit that number if we do everything right. If we do everything really well, we'll exceed that number. And then that's when, if you're having a listing conversation with somebody, you say, all right, now let's talk about how we make sure we hit or exceed that number. And this is my thought, right? Sometimes you have to list it high and then haggle people. Sometimes you list it low and build up a ton of competition. And sometimes you just set the number exactly where you want it and you just hold your ground and say, all right, first person who gives me my magic number wins the house. And then just leave it at that. Yeah. Different markets, different properties, different situations will all determine which way you want to go to get that. But that's a topic for another day. Now, what you can do over here, there's like all kinds of different presentations that you can use to come up with. You can play around with all these. But I just go to this view right here so I can get straight to this block, which is the summary statistics. This is the most important thing because this is the calculator for me. That's how I know that number. If you want to make a nice, pretty glossy presentation, you can go over here to presentation setup and mess around with some stuff. You go to page layout, here you choose some themes. I'll just walk you through it. So you got the modern theme. You put your little face down here, fill out all your personal info. Do the vivid one. Traditional. Elegant. That does not look elegant to me. Contemporary, basic. Probably, I think vivid. Vivid is pretty good. Naked preview is pretty good. That's kind of nice. Calm, Smith. And then let's see, presentation. Let's just add a cover page. Come on now. Come on, yeah. Here we go. You could drop in your agent resume. Summary of adjustments. Add a little map in there. Add your selling versus timing button. Right. Add all those things. And then view presentation. You can use these tools, or you can use another tool called Cloud CMA, which is free to agents through your membership with CAR. But that's a topic for another day because that's just like kind of all marketing stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, so
Matt, two things before I get my afternoon started here. Um, that this one I do cloud CMA, so can you tell me where I go for this one? I heard you kind of say it, but I was on my walk. Which one do I click for this, where you entered all those little breakdowns?
save CMA components and then download. You go up here to CMA at the top. You see
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you hit create presentation.
Okay.
They should have taught you all this at Whistle.
Um, they
They
taught
should
me
have
a
taught they
different
should have taught you
style, not
anything at Whistle.
necessarily this style. I think they taught me more with the cloud CMA way route.
Yeah, the problem with the Cloud CMA is it's all marketing, but it's no adjustments.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah,
like
that's the
about
way
this one
that
is it gives
Katie
you
had
all the line
trained
items.
us. Okay. Yeah, I like this one.
Hmm.
Okay, and then that's where I get that little calculator and I can fit all that in.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you know that Excel sheet with all those breakdowns on
Uh-huh.
school, where do I go for that?
So if you open up the under converting, if you open up mastering CMAs, it's a hyperlink right under the picture. CMA
Okay,
adjustment
so
sheet.
my tabs on schools say community, classroom, calendar, member, leaderboards, about,
Classroom,
classroom, skill bridge or onboarding,
skill bridge.
skill bridge, okay, and converting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
And which one was it after converting?
Mastering CMAs.
Mastering CMAs. Gracias, thank you.
Yeah. Pretty easy peasy. So Tawanda be sad that I didn't do a CMA on her piece of land, but uh that's not going to help you guys as much as this will. So,
No, that was
questions?
good. I like that, Matt. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was good.
It's Kyle would probably pull his hair out because the level of like depth that you need to go through to be accurate with these, he would never spend
Mhm.
that much time with it. But I can tell you, being able to do a good CMA this proper way is like a Marine being able to put a bullet in the red. If you can't shoot straight, nothing else matters, right? Like you do this enough, you can cruise through these really fast, and you can also omit things that are kind of superfluous, like, you know, you can do one quick and dirty if you have done these enough because you know what to like really spend your time with and what not to. But if you don't learn with a high bar, then you're going to learn bad habits. And then when it comes time to be accurate, you won't know how to be more accurate. So you're always just going to be lukewarm at best. And that's not what we're about here. We're about being your best.
I do have one question for do you have to have your own like MLS account to do all that, or can the assistant one like kind of mess with it too?
You can, without being licensed, you can have an account. And what you do, I'll show you, is we'll talk to actually, let's see, if you go into the onboarding section, uh, Let's see, onboarding process. Actually, home free in doc right here. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. If you're not licensed already, you can get access to the MLS. You can go down to the local SDAR, which is the easiest way to do it. And there's a form that they'll have you fill out. Now, you can take your chances of just filling out this form, signing it, and sending it off. And what you'll do, you put your name, Ethan, and your email address. I would be your responsible agent. And what you're doing is you're asking the MLS to allow you permission to go into my MLS as my assistant and have full access to everything. It'll all have my name on it and everything, and you'll see all my clients and stuff, but you won't need to be licensed and it'll be under my account. They do that so I can bring in an assistant to work in my platform. And then under the responsible broker, I got that listed down here. That's use me for responsible agent and use Debbie Penny for the responsible broker. And that's all you got to do. I don't think it costs you any money either. And it would be good, actually, Ethan and Hala, if both of you guys did that. So then you can get on there and build up your skills. Now, when you get to Sacramento, you're going to have a different platform than Paragon. They they're going to probably have some other third-party software system that they use, but a lot of the a lot of the same outcomes will still be the same. The interface will just be different and how you get there. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So let's go to resources. Yes, resources. All right. So you might actually, uh, it might be Claw that you're going to use up there. So you can see automatically this is a completely different interface. A lot of the same terminology exists though. Active, under contract, looking for single family homes, all that jazz. Um, all your searches, statistics, available apps. Right yet. I'll never go away. Basic address. Yeah, my listings. Well, this is LA actually. Let me see here. CDAR? I'm gonna say CRMLS. CRMLS is the regional MLS. This is the one we use in Temecula. Let's see. Then go to. I think they just changed this up a little bit. Jeez. Search. There we go. Yeah, and this is a whole ass different interface right here. We detail search. This one really sucks because, like, for example, if I want to do two garage spaces or more, I have to know that I have to press two plus button. And if I want to do bedrooms, I can do three plus button, or I can do 3-4 to say 3 to 4. But it's not nearly as intuitive as the other one. You just got to know that that's how that shit works. If I want to do more than one county, I can't just click and add the county. I have to either drag it or I have to hit the control button to add more than one. It's like fucking 1980s computer tech. And this is the one that the whole Riverside County uses for CRMLS. So, but at the end of the day, they all have the same methods. It's just a different process to get there.
Yes, I do have a quick question. So I currently have around two more classes possibly coming down the pipeline in the next month. Um, However, for some reason, a lot of them are asking me about purchasing homes in North Carolina or, other areas that are not California. So, um, yeah. So I did briefly bring that up to Tawanda, and she said to let her know because you're licensed in North Carolina.
We don't need to worry so much about being licensed there. What you're going to want to do is set up referrals over there. So if you got somebody who's trying to move to, like, say, High Point, North Carolina, we can, through EXP, put in a request for an EXP agent that's in that area to take that referral, and then EXP will make sure that when they close, that you get paid. So what usually happens with referrals is you connect somebody to somebody that's out of town. You say, "Hey, I got this person for you. Give me a 25% referral." And they're like, "Yeah, I got you." And then 6 months goes by, you don't hear anything, and then you find out, oh, they didn't close them, or they did close them, and they just never sent you a check. And you're like, "Hey, fucker, you owe me money," and you end up having to track your money down. But with EXP, they'll find an EXP agent, and then they'll flag that transaction. So when it goes through, they'll make sure you get paid. Sometimes EXP can't find a good agent that's out there, and it'll be, the person they assign to it won't be all that great. So what I've done in the past to great success is I'll just do a consumer search myself, and I'll look for somebody in that area that I think has all the stuff I'm looking for, whether EXP or not. And if they're a professional enough agent and they're good to go, then I'll just set up a relationship and then make the connection. I'll interview them myself and everything.
Okay, sounds good. So the best route to take, I guess, with that, I mean, this is what I was just gonna do in the meantime. I still let her know. Um, oh yeah, no problem. We can have, yeah, I can have, the realtors from my Skill Bridge program talk to you guys just to kind of factor in like not just her situation, but several other Marines into the same basket. So we're not like, omitting the class altogether
Yeah.
and saying, "Oh, you're going to North Carolina." Like, so I'm still gonna follow through with the class, but I was trying to see, I guess, if you would like to talk to that person yourself, maybe.
Yeah, I'll talk to any of these guys, no problem. And as far as the educational component goes,
Okay.
what we'll need to do is just uh because if they're going to North Carolina, they're either going out there on orders or they're going out there as civilians. Do you know if most of them are
It's
going to
gonna be
be
work.
getting out? What's that?
No, most of them are on, but they're from that area, so they want to purchase their home while they're on orders.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm from there too. I get it. That's great because if they're active duty while they're out there, easy peasy. All of our information for getting ready, using the VA loan, how the VA loan works, all that stuff is exactly the same. None of that changes. The only thing that changes is North Carolina is a closing attorney state, not an escrow state. But that doesn't matter to them. That's for our purposes. They'll find an agent, they'll get a lender, they'll get pre-qualified, they'll shop for a home, they'll get into escrow, and once they get into escrow, the real estate agent kind of backs out and just kind of sits on the bench while the closing attorneys do their thing. That's the big difference. Whereas out here, we never sit the bench. We're with the client from A to Z.
Okay, makes sense. Sounds good. And then I have another two that want to purchase in the DFW area in Texas. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that's an attorney area or not.
That's an escrow state, and I've got people there.
Okay, sounds good. And then I do have one other question. So I already let Tawanda know about my situation, but I don't know if you know anything about this, but if I fully get licensed in the state of California, um, are my hours or any course curriculum certificates applicable to Texas?
No, but the Texas license is just as easy as the California one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
heard this a little bit more difficult.
No, not really. If you were a broker in California and you were applying for a license in Texas, they would probably go ahead and just port you over and have you just like um maybe even just take the exam. I got a buddy of mine who's a broker here, and Florida just signed him off for like he didn't even have to take the test. They just signed him off to be a broker in Florida. Um, so I was like, well, that's fucking cool. But yeah, just as far as being an agent, no, you'll have to take the test over there, but it's easy.
Okay,
And
sounds
you're
good.
going to you said the Houston area?
So actually, it'll be San Antonio.
San Antone.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a friend, my longtime homegirl, Crystal Hernandez. She's out there in San Antonio.
Well, I hope she's doing well because I heard out here in California, it is a little bit more competitive than it is in Texas. So,
Whatever people say, just go ahead and disregard as bullshit.
okay.
People say all kinds of stuff. They're like, "Oh, this is hard, that's hard, this is harder here, that's harder there." You got to keep in mind most people are weak, and a lot of their opinions about how easy it is to get into something or how easy it is to do something just comes from the perspective of somebody who's weak. So no, I don't think there's nothing stopping you from succeeding here and there's nothing stopping you from succeeding there. It's just a matter of how you go about it and like how well you prepare for the business. That's it. You'll be equally successful in either place.
Advice right now because I'm in a real choppy timeline. So I'm pretty much trying to decide whether or not I want to stay in California. I mean, given that the career field I'm trying to go into, it's 100% commissions based. So that's kind
Yeah.
of unnerving. Um, yeah, so I don't know what my VA disability percentage is going to be, but it's going to be at least 80%. And then I know you mentioned filing for unemployment. So does that affect you in any way? Like as far as like gaining employment somewhere else?
If you go and get a job that's a W-2, the W-2 will impact your ability to get the unemployment. Because part of what you do for unemployment is you get in there and say that you've been looking for work and you haven't found work, and there's no way that anybody's going to find any paperwork that says that you're employed by a company, right? The second you get employed by a company, you have to let the unemployment office know. They'll suspend your payments while you're working. And then if you lose your job a month later, you go back in and you start again. And you call the unemployment office and you say, I lost my job. I'm looking for work. I haven't found any. And then they'll turn your checks back on. That's it. But as far as unemployment and real estate sales, well, we're looking for work every single day as a real estate agent, but we're 1099. We're contract by contract. So we're basically going to consistently be trying to close a sale, and that doesn't interfere with your unemployment status. So
Okay. Yeah.
even if you did close a deal like this month, you could tell the unemployment office like, well, I just closed the deal, and they'd be like, all right, cool. And then like a week later, you'd be like, I'm looking for work again. Yeah, so you just start your
That's
unemployment back on.
okay.
'Cause-
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because I don't know. Pretty much, I'm probably unpacking right now, but I'm considering testing the waters out here upon my EAS date. Because if I start something, I want to finish it. So I intended to start it under the premise of other conditions, but those conditions are not met right now. So I want to continue what I started pretty much. But I know that rent in California is very expensive for a single person. So yeah, I'm trying to negate any fears or concerns of, I guess, providing for myself, I
Mhm.
guess, for at least 6 months to a year while I'm trying to build my database out here.
Yeah.
So
You're going through you're going through a very normal process that all of us have gone through. It's like, oh, take a deep breath, here it comes.
yep, it's happening. But all right,
Yeah.
yep,
And that's why like you know, a lot of people that do skill bridge, like they say they want to do it, but the second that they cross that bridge, I think the reality hits them, and then they just like start thinking, "Oh, I need to go to school. I need that GI Bill money, or I need to go get a contracting job or something," because they're just too scared. But that's the problem is like if you take the safe route,
exactly.
you don't reach the top, man. The only way to reach the top is fucking you gotta go up, dude. It's-
Yeah,
view's better at the top, but it's harder to get to.
for sure.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
my pleasure. If
All
you need
right.
anything, just give me a holler.
All right. Will do.
All
Bye.
right, see you.